Hey guys, it's Manny. So it's going to be a deep dive of the sensational Spider-Man Annual Number 1, which is a retelling of Kraven's first appearance, but it's mostly told from Kraven the Hunter's perspective and the Chameleon. So we have a splash page with Sergei Kravinoff, aka Kraven the Hunter, are running a herd of gazelles somewhere in Africa. We also have the creative team, which is headlined by JMD Mateus and Sean McManus. We see Kraven mention his Russian aristocratic roots and how he embraces a savage hunter lifestyle, which has given him meaning. Ironically, he calls the civilized world uncivilized. Later, Kraven opens up a letter from Dmitry Smerdyakov, aka the Chameleon, which is going to eventually inspire Kraven to continue his never-ending pursuit of the hunt to the outside world. We see the Chameleon holding a gun in the middle panel. He's robbing a shop owner, and later he's going to disguise himself as a shop owner, last panel. The Chameleon assaults and robs the shop owner and then leaves. Bottom panels, he mentions how people cling to their social mask, and he questions if people truly know themselves and the emptiness that comes when they're stripped of these social masks. He talks about his advantage over people is that he always has a mask underneath a mask. However, Chameleon next says that taking fully all these social masks and disguising himself as so many people is a heavy burden. He thinks about when he go back to being just himself, Dmitry Smerdyakov. We cut to a young Spider-Man mentioning how much he enjoys the rush of being a superhero, and he embraces more being a superhero than his civilian identity. We learned that he is late to meet Aunt May. He discusses how he hates lying to Aunt May, expressing the negatives of having dual identities. We can see that he feels guilty for being late. We can see Aunt May cheers him up. We cut to Kraven, who's used to taking what he wants in nature, is taking a cruise ship to the US, and he makes an unwanted advance on a woman who scratches his face and calls him an animal. Kraven calls her a peasant despite her fancy attire. He says that she's part of the peasant class that drove the nobility, I should say, like his family out of Russia during the Russian Revolution. This exile destroyed his father's spirit and forced his mother to an asylum, according to Kraven. So he says that this is one of the reasons why he found some peace in the more civilized jungle. We see Kraven in his room. He's naked with newspaper clippings of Spider-Man and says how the hunt has allowed him to reclaim some of his lost noble dignity. He's eating spiders to prepare for his upcoming hunt of Spider-Man, which he thinks will be a way for him to fuse two worlds, the jungle of nature and the concrete jungle of the modern world, and he wants to become whole through this process. He calls Spider-Man his prey and destiny. So we cut to the scene of the Chameleon. He's turning back and forth into Kraven, Spider-Man, and himself. We see him deeply conflicted between the hatred and love for his friend, Kraven the Hunter. So Kraven arrives in New York City and announces that he will hunt Spider-Man in front of people, including the media, who have gathered to meet Kraven. J. Jonah Jameson can also be seen being ignored by Kraven. So Kraven puts on a spectacle by capturing escaped animals, and he kills a gorilla with his bare hands. So Kraven senses Spider-Man but dismisses the idea after seeing Peter Parker, who he deems to be weak and cannot be Spider-Man according to him. So we see Kraven and Chameleon plotting against Spider-Man, and Kraven starts consuming his rejuvenating jungle potion. We see the Chameleon ask for the potion, and Kraven humiliates him and says that he is a nobody. So Kraven unmasks the Chameleon. We can see that the Chameleon looks like elderly or disfigured. Kraven says to himself that he needs to humiliate the Chameleon to keep him in line. Kraven compares himself to a god, raising up the Chameleon, who we can see has been rejuvenated with the potion. We see in the top middle panels that the Chameleon was Kraven's childhood friend, his servant, his slave, and object of Kraven's abuse. Bottom panels, we see Kraven observing his prey, Spider-Man, in action. Kraven finally confronts Spider-Man. Early on, Kraven gets the upper hand on Spider-Man, but we can see Spider-Man deliver a blow to Kraven, who is disoriented. Kraven starts to see Spider-Man middle panels as a monster. You could tell that Kraven is frightened. We see him in the bottom panels, Kraven that is, poison Spider-Man before he gets away. We see Kraven basically quivering in an alley. He says that Spider-Man is the monster who ripped him from his aristocratic family and from Russia and ruined his parents' lives. He recalls a gross sight of seeing spiders on his mother, who was in an asylum. We see the Chameleon, who has seen Kraven quivering like this before as a child. In a way, he mocks Kraven and tells him how much he hates his parents, calling him his father a monster and his mother weak. So Kraven defends his parents. He attacks the Chameleon, who eventually apologizes, and they both walk away to hunt Spider-Man. The Chameleon calls Kraven a brother, which is the first clue to the fact that he is Kraven's half-brother. we can see that the Chameleon says that, he should feel empathy for Kraven the Hunter, but he says he feels bitterness because of all the abuse he has suffered at the hands of Kraven. We cut to Spider-Man feeling some of the after effects of Kraven's poison. So Spider-Man goes to battle Kraven and the Chameleon. The Chameleon is disguised as Kraven. They set up a trap for Spider-Man, who's put in shackles. So Spider-Man uses his webbing to get out of the shackles and webs up and unmasks the Chameleon, who thinks about how he wanted Kraven to be destroyed by Spider-Man, which is why he summoned him to the US. So Kraven is shocked to see that Spider-Man has escaped the shackles. He becomes fearful of Spider-Man again, but he realizes that Spider-Man is the source of the demise of Russia and his parents. Again, he's disoriented, and he feels like Spider-Man is now hunting him. He eventually decides to battle Spider-Man. So Kraven and Spider-Man battle, as we can see here. We can see Spider-Man get the upper hand. He eventually captures Kraven in Orange Web. We see Kraven feeling the whole world will learn of this humiliation at the hands of Spider-Man, and he asks Spider-Man to kill him. It's unlikely that Spider-Man hurt him. We learned that Kraven and the Chameleon are deported on a ship. We see Kraven wake up from a nightmare involving spiders. We see some of his suicidal tendencies when he wishes the dream of a rifle pointing at him to be true. So the Chameleon is calling out for his mask in another room. The top panel, we see Kraven take out the Chameleon's mask, and he's thankful that his friend, the Chameleon, is with him to bear the suffering. We see Spider-Man feeling content with his life, and the story ends with a sweet moment between Peter Parker and Aunt May. Okay, so some analysis of dualities and trauma. So I think one duality that I want to kind of talk about is this aristocratic aspect to Kraven, that he's lost honor as an aristocrat, but he wants to kind of reclaim that in his hunter lifestyle, this savage lifestyle. And then the hatred towards his parents. You can see that he hates his parents towards the middle of the story, but he's also defending his parents when the Chameleon mocks them. We can see that Kraven is a man who's mastered nature, but he's not mastered his own trauma. Also, the Chameleon, he abuses his servant. He pushes him away, but he also seeks out his friend and brother, so he pulls him in as well. And this bigger than life exterior in person, right, that Kraven has, but we can see he's kind of a traumatized child inside. And then this searching for meaning in life beyond the savage hunter lifestyle, but we can see at the end he's kind of lost more meaning in life and he's become suicidal. I think it's also important to examine the Chameleon and his dualities and trauma. So we can see that he has a love for his friend and brother Kraven, but he also has hatred towards his abuser. And his disguise gives him power to take on any identity, but he's unable to take on his own identity, so he's longing to be himself. And he has power over others when he steals their identities, but those people still have power over him because he has to fully embrace those people when he disguises himself as them. And we can see he seeks independence from his brother, but he's also dependent on him, right? The acknowledgement that he wants from Kraven, and then those potions as well, those rejuvenating potions. In general, we can see that the Chameleon and Kraven are basically two survivors of abuse. We can see that their villain identities are informed by this trauma, and they have a very much dysfunctional relationship. All right, guys, but I want to hear what you guys think of my analysis of the text. I'll leave a playlist here for more similar videos. As always, I thank you guys for watching. All that good stuff. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time.